Hey, how you doing? Brian Allen here. I'm going to be drawing these characters for this Panama City tourism T-shirt in Clip Studio Paint. Give me 1 second here. I'm just setting things up. Um, Today is going to be a quicker broadcast, and I apologize if the audio is not great. I wasn't able to hook up my microphone for a bunch of boring reasons, and I can't get Facebook to work. For some reason, my Facebook page is down. So I'm just broadcasting to YouTube and Twitch right now. Um, Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to get started. If anybody was watching my stream last week, or not last week, sorry, earlier in the month, we were drawing a zombie t-shirt. So I'm going to pick that up and I'll show you that in a second here once we get going. I want to show you how it turned out because I think it turned out really cool. All right, great. And I'm trying out a new chat thing here. Not sure if it's going to work or not, but should compile anybody's chats um, from YouTube and Twitch, and I should see them here, although it's not working. So that's too bad. So if you leave a message on Twitch, I may not see it, and I apologize for that. I will come back and answer it later. On YouTube, if you have any questions, just please feel free to ask them. And if I accidentally pass over your question, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I just missed it because I was drawing. So feel free to ask it again. All right, let's go. So for this shirt here, I have already inked in a lot of the background elements. There's still a bunch of stuff that needs to go in the background, but I wanted today to do the more interesting part with these two characters. So I'm going to take the background and I'm just going to put a white mask over everything for now so it doesn't distract us as much. There we go. So then I can really focus on the characters here. All right, and the two characters we came up with was a toucan and a sloth. And these are both animals that are native to Panama. I thought the sloth would be a really fun character because he's kind of naturally relaxed. All right, and these pencil drawings here that you're looking at, these were drawn on paper um, just with a regular lead holder pencil. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn on the blue outline here. And actually, I'm just going to get rid of the whole background. We don't really need it right now. Yeah. And I want it just enough so I can kind of see the foundation, but I don't want it to dictate how I'm inking things. All right. And I'm going to be using this brush, which I really like for cartoon characters. It's from my brush set. It's a modified pen from Manga Studio 4. It's the pen-pencil Manga Studio 4 brush. And let's see, I'm just going to do some test strokes here. There we go. When I'm doing cartoon characters, I like to use the vector layers because it smooths out the line just a little bit. And I'll show you a neat trick that you can do with the vector eraser in a little bit here. All right, cool. So let's do the toucan first. And I just want to start with the bold contours of the body first before I do any of the details inside. I don't know how to talk to you. I think this posted to Instagram. But I don't think you can know.
I don't think I can do it.
Should pop up.
Hmm? There's nothing there. It's on Instagram.
That's not. Paste it. You gotta paste the text.
I think it's pasted.
Hey Joe, what's up, buddy? Congratulations on working with the video game nerd. Me and John watch his shows all the time. It's awesome. Hey, best pop-up books. Thanks for watching. Um, what's your question?
Nothing's pasted.
Oh, here's a question. Sorry. Question is, any chance you and Keith are going to team up once more on a pop-up book of our artwork? Keith is my brother. He's a really talented artist who works at American Greetings. Him and I did a pop-up book together with my grandmother. I'd say about 4 years ago. It was all about Rehoboth Beach, this really cool resort town that we always go to. Um, it it did really well. Like we sold. I'm not going to give specific numbers, but we did really well. Uh, we did especially well on the first release of the book. We sold out, and we kind of got a little ambitious, and we printed a heck of a lot more. And we did not sell out a second time. And basically, the two of us just got so busy with our own things that the book kind of sort of fell off to the side. And then Keith ended up recently printing his own pop-up book called What a Mess that he did all himself. He did all the illustrations and designed the pop-ups, and it's incredible. He had a successful Kickstarter too. And now he's selling the book himself, and it's going really well. So would we ever do a pop-up book together again? I would love to someday. I would actually like to do maybe something much smaller, like maybe just some paper toys where I design them and then he creates them. The problem with pop-up books, besides just the incredible amount of work that goes into them, into designing them and illustrating for them, is that it's very, very expensive. We would have loved to have had them made in America, but that was just impossible for us. So we had to have them shipped from China, and that in itself was quite an adventure, and and a huge investment of capital too. I think to print all the books in our second printing, I think was about 18 grand. So it's not just something you do on a whim, right? Um, we made all our money back plus a nice profit, so we're very grateful of that. But we didn't, when you factor in all the time that it took and uh, everything else that's involved, probably wasn't. It wasn't really a great business endeavor, but it was just something that was really fun to do as a family, um, and especially with my grandmother too, because I know it means a lot to her. Uh, so I hope that answers your questions. I would love to. A lot of people do come up to us and they say, "When's the next one coming out?" We love the first one, and it's hard to say because they don't understand. I don't think the incredible amount of work that goes into something like that. Um, so, and cost. Hey, Randy, and thanks a lot for buying one. I appreciate it. So, I have a question from Shamir Ali. Um, and I answer this question a lot. It's a good one. Right now, I'm drawing on a vector layer in Clip Studio Paint. These are not vectors like Adobe Illustrator vectors. When I save this file, I cannot save it as an EPS and uh, open it in Illustrator or in Corel Draw or anything like that. That is really unfortunate, and I hope that someday they fix that. Um, I know it's not an easy task, but basically, vector layers in Clip Studio Paint, they work like vectors as long as you only open it in Clip Studio Paint. So I can infinitely resize this line art and it will never pixelate, which is excellent. I can also do, this is really, here I'll show you. Um, let's say, let's say we want to put a hat on this bird, right? I can just draw a line like that, and then I get out the vector eraser, and if I just tap here and there, it somehow knows where the intersections were, and it just erases those points, which is very, very cool. I often forget about it and don't use it as much as I should. But as soon as I try to open this in a different program or export the file, it's going to lose that vectoriness, uh, which is too bad. So what I will do if I need to work in vector, which is fairly often because people will need logo designs or whatever, I will draw it in this program, and then I use a second program called Vector Magic. It's kind of expensive. It's $200, but it's amazing. It traces my line art exactly into a vector. And when I say exactly, I mean exactly. If you've ever used Live Trace in Adobe Illustrator, you know how frustrating it can be because it only sort of works. And for me, I could never get it to work enough where it retains kind of like the character of the line art, which is to me is the whole point. If I wanted it to look really clean and smooth and computerized, then I would have done it in Adobe Illustrator in the first place. So Jeremy asks a question: where can the first one be published at? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Are you asking where you can get our pop-up book? If you could clarify that, that'd be great. Hey, Luke, how you doing, man? Thanks for watching. And no, I do not miss you at all. We should meet up for lunch again after I just insulted you. So, anyone who was watching last week, or not last week, it's been almost 3 weeks since I've done one of these. I was talking about the possibility of getting a huge job, and I got it. And that's actually why I haven't broadcast in a few weeks, because I got the job and basically it threw my entire schedule out the window. I was working on that. I just finished it yesterday. I've been working on that for 2 weeks straight, um, and I had to like either outsource or delay most of my other projects that were on my desk. It was nuts. The giant job was for Chickfila. There's a game coming up, a college football game between Georgia and Auburn, and Chick-fil-A is going to have like a pop-up restaurant at the like on the state line, um, and it's made out of a shipping container, right? They're going to take this shipping container and they're going to wrap it in vinyl with my artwork. And the artwork that they hired me to do was it was my interpretation of the two mascots, the Georgia Bulldog and the Auburn Tiger. And I drew all these different poses and action scenes, and it wraps. Now, okay, try to visualize this. This shipping container is something like 80 feet. No, sorry, not 80 feet. 40 feet long, right? And no, it is 80 feet long. It's 80 feet long and 10 feet tall. And we had to just blanket this thing with artwork, and then there was artwork on the ends of it too, on the sides, and it turned out awesome. I mean, I'm so proud of it, and I'm gonna be posting about it pretty soon. But I'll tell you, man, it was one of the most stressful projects I've ever worked on, because they awarded me the project 10 days before it was due, and it ended up taking I believe 70 or 80 hours to do. So you do the math. I crammed 70 hours in 10 days. It may not have been. It may have been a little more than 10 days, but it was nuts. Anyway, they are totally pleased with it. I'm totally pleased with it, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about that. Yeah. So Jeremy, to answer your question here, you can buy the book from. Let me see if this is still up. If you just go on Amazon and do a search for "A Day in Rehoboth Beach," it'll bring you right to our book, and you can buy it there. It's I think it's like $18. Can't remember exactly. But are you familiar with Rehoboth Beach? If you are, I would definitely recommend getting it, because it's got all the landmarks of Rehoboth in there. It's got Dolly's and Funland and the bandstand and all these things. I guess I can close this stupid chat box. It doesn't work. Hey, Rob, thanks for coming on. Yeah, actually, I was just talking about the big project. We just finished it yesterday, and the project was actually for Chick-fil-A, for the Auburn Georgia game that's coming up. I think November 3rd or something like that. Hey, Marcos here asked me a good question. He's saying, all right, this is a great question, and I doubt I'm gonna be able to help with it. So you're saying, with a person with experience on Corel Draw, what's the learning curve with Corel Painter? You're starting to draw with a tablet. So I have never used Corel Draw. Uh, I know a ton of people who use it. Um, I take that back. I used to use it when I worked for a graphics vinyl place like 10 years ago, but all I did was just like make cutting paths and stuff like that. So I didn't really use it much. Um, Corel Painter, I also haven't used that in like 8 years. So I'm sure it's changed a lot. I liked it, but at the time it was extremely buggy and it would often crash on me. They probably have changed that. But mainly now, the two programs I use are Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint, and that's it. Oh, and I guess Adobe Illustrator too when I have to. Yeah, Rob, thank you for that. It was definitely a big deal for us. There was a moment there too where I didn't think we were going to get the job, and it almost fell apart 3 or 4 times, but we got it. Paid pretty nicely too, and it's going to look good in the portfolio. The other thing that we're working on right now, and it might be worth mentioning to anybody listening who's a freelance artist. I learned a few years ago that you should always try to retain the copyrights to your artwork. Um, this is not an easy fight whatsoever because clients often insist that they want to buy all rights outright. And there's also a lot of artists who either aren't aware that you should do that or don't bother fighting. Um, but in this case, they they were trying to get a full buyout, but I resisted, and they did capitulate. Um, and now what's happening is Chick-fil-A likes the artwork so much that now we're in negotiations for them to license the artwork from me for more. So it's an opportunity now to make a little bit more money, um, without even doing anything really, just signing a new contract. And this doesn't happen to me all the time, but that is the way that freelance illustration is supposed to work, and it used to work a lot like that. Apparently, I'm told, like in the 90s, when competition was less. Um, Now you seem to have to fight for it a bit more, but I'm always recommending that to freelance artists. If you're out there and you are just routinely saying that when somebody buys your artwork, they get the full rights to the artwork, you might want to consider taking another look at that, because there is money to be made, um, after your artwork is done. And really, if somebody is hiring you to do artwork, they really should only need it, or they should really only get it for the purpose that they are hiring you for. So if they are hiring you to design a T-shirt, give them apparel rights. But that doesn't mean that they should be able to then make action figures or stickers or on and on from that artwork. You should be able to do that. And we started we started fighting for this about 3 years ago, and it's really been paying off because we actually license a fair amount of our existing artwork, um, to other companies. And it doesn't, I mean, we're not making a killing on that, but it is definitely enough to be a nice source of residual income. Um, so anyway, there's my lecture on that. Hey Chris, how you doing? Actually, that's funny that you're here, man. Thanks for watching. I was actually just about to follow up with you, um, about the Rainforest Cafe thing. So maybe I can give you a call next week. Um, yeah, and actually, I suspected that Rainforest Cafe would need to retain all the artworks or all the rights to the artwork. Unfortunately, especially in the T-shirt market, it's incredibly common, and it's just a shame. Um, and to be honest, and I don't mean to like sound whiny here, but this is sort of the weird circumstance that I'm in now. Is that I've been doing this long enough to now get skilled enough to be attracting bigger clients, only to find out that those bigger clients, their terms and prices are worse than when I'm just like working for a garage band or something like that. Um, so I don't know. I could go. I don't want to go too far into that one, but it is a little depressing. Joe, I don't talk to you anymore because of that thing, and you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, Chris, I'm going to give you a call next week, and maybe we can figure something out. And I do want to say too, there are lots of situations where you do have to sell all your rights, but when you do need to make sure that you try to get the client to pay for it. Um, if they do want all the rights, that should be a lot more expensive to them because they're getting a hell of a lot more. But again, you got to fight for it. I'm not saying it's easy. Hey. Hey, Jim Street asked, "Do you have a personal IP I've been working on?" That's a great question. I have a long list of IPs that I want to work on. Um, the trouble I have is that I probably take too many projects, and then all of my personal stuff gets pushed to the side. Um, and one reason for that is when I do make personal products, they aren't they aren't always incredibly successful. Um, like I'm trying. Actually, right now we just made our first silkscreen print of. I designed these Mickey Mouse skeletons. It's like Mickey and Goofy and Donald, and they're it's just one color, white on black paper, and we had it silkscreened by a place in California, and they turned out amazing. Um, so we printed 50 of them, and if anybody's interested, we're selling them on our website for $20 plus shipping. They're signed and numbered. We're only going to make 50, and that's it. So that doesn't count as an IP. That's me stealing someone else's IP. I do want. I've been wanting to make a line of like beach characters, just kind of like these. If you're familiar with the TNC surf characters by Steve Nazar, I'm a big fan of those, and I've been thinking about trying to make kind of a beach line of tikis and witch doctor people. I've also been trying to get into wood engraving, like laser engraving. I have some ideas there that I don't want to spill yet, but next year I'm really going to make an effort to somehow put aside time to do my own stuff. And whether or not it makes money, I'm going to try not to sort of separate that and view it more as a hobby and not part of my business. Because I think that's the trap, is that we do well with freelance. So I view any side projects of my own as sort of taking away time from the freelance and thus costing me money. But I need to stop thinking like that and think more about, okay, the freelance stuff is paying for this to happen, you know. So Yoni says, Datooch, you can buy the 22 ink. So, um, I would say I don't know what you're saying. Uh, and again, I said at the beginning, if I missed your question, I apologize. This thing kind of moves fast, and I'm not looking at it constantly. So here's a great question. Please explain the process of creating license and claiming if someone steals the artwork. Oh man, stealing artwork. I could go on about this one. So I actually, I'm in a kind of weird situation right now where it's possible. Wait, I don't want to say this. I shouldn't say this. Okay, another example. There's some douchebag who uh, he makes these books on how to carve pumpkins. He's the pumpkin wizard. Not a pumpkin wizard, the pumpkin wizard. And he sells these books every year of patterns, and it shows you how to carve a pumpkin with these patterns. Well, apparently the dude has been just stealing all of this artwork for these books. So a couple pieces of my artwork is in the book. A couple pieces of the artist Beast Pop, his artwork is in the book. And I reached out to him, did all my things where you write a cease and desist letter, and I posted on his Facebook site and did all these things. He never answered, and he blocked me from his Facebook page. So what's the next step? Well, I've been through this enough where I think it's finally time that I actually go see a lawyer, which breaks my heart because that's expensive, you know. That's going to cost me a lot of money. I know one lawyer I talked to, every time that he sends a cease and desist letter, that's going to cost me $120. Well, at that point, it's really silly to pay $120 unless there's a hope to actually sue the guy to get paid what he made, you know, because I should be reimbursed for what he made. So, all right, man, this is going to turn into a long thing, but the problem with all of this is that very few artists, including myself, have the time to sit here and try to litigate with somebody. So most likely what always happens is somebody will steal your artwork, I'll contact them, raise a fuss, and then they will take the artwork down, usually, but I will never get paid. I've never ever received any money from somebody who stole my artwork. And I mean, that's not a big surprise, because if you're a thief, you're not usually charitable, right? So what's to be done about this? I have no idea. I'm going to be honest with you, because I put watermarks on my artwork. I always post them at a pretty low resolution, but unfortunately, a lot of the Photoshop technology now, and actually they just came out with a new update that's even better than with this. Their algorithm at resizing artwork has gotten so good that you can take something that's very low res and blow it up so that it prints a t-shirt pretty nicely. And that sucks. And not only that, but one problem with posting your artwork at a low resolution is that now that all of our screens, even our phones, are such hyper resolutions, like really high resolution, if you're trying to post your artwork at like only 400 by 400 pixels, which is what I used to do, it ends up looking so tiny on the screen that it's just not even nice to look at. But as far as how to license your artwork, just a disclaimer, I'm not a copyright lawyer. But if you go to the copyright website, or the copyright office by the government, the instant that you, an artist, a writer, a photographer, whatever, the instant you create something, you own the copyright to that, okay? So you do not have to register it. You do not have to like print it out and mail it to yourself in an envelope, that old thing. You own it, period. Okay? The problem is if you don't register it, which to be clear, I usually don't. It's because it's too expensive and too time consuming. But if you don't register it, then it makes it harder, not impossible, but harder for you to sue for damages, which just means that if somebody steals your artwork and they make $1,000 with it, I could say to them, I could legally say, you take that artwork down, and they would have to, and a court might make them take it down. But if I haven't registered it with a copyright office, it becomes much, much harder to collect for damages. And most lawyers wouldn't represent you unless it was. Now, I think I said I never register. I have a couple times, but I'll tell you, man, it is so inconvenient. It costs $30 per image, and then it takes about half an hour just to fill out all their paperwork. And even when you do, okay, it can take 6 months for them to send you the official copyright notice. 6 months. So that means if I make something and I want to post it right away, I can't. I got to register it, then wait 6 months, pay $30, and it's a mess. And I know very few artists who actually deal with that. Anyway, sorry, that's not what this is not meant to be a legal podcast. But one way, anybody listening, one way you can help is just whenever you buy artwork from anywhere, whether it's on a t-shirt or a print or whatever, just take a second and make sure that you are buying it from the artist who made it. And I mean, maybe even just Google it, Google the image and see where it came from. Maybe it would be better to buy it directly from the artist's website. And the way you can tell is that basically, if it's from the artist, it will say that on the page. So if you buy it from Designed by Humans, for example, it will say made by Brian Allen or whatnot. The people who steal the artwork, they never credit the artist for obvious reasons. So just watch out for that. And if you see somebody obviously stealing artwork, definitely reach out to the artist. As much as it ruins our day, it helps. And that's one thing that is really good about the internet is that it's easy to steal stuff, but I think it's even easier to get caught. So that's something. So Yanni asks, how much you get from selling your art? Can you make good money? Man, how do I answer this? I say we because my wife works with me. I mean, we do make really good money. But we work really hard. I'm like most artists, I'm working usually 10-hour days and usually work on Sunday on my stuff typically. I usually don't do client work on the weekend, and it's also pretty stressful too because we pay a lot of money in taxes. We pay a lot in health insurance. There's also just the unknowing, right? We're lucky to be really busy, but looking at my calendar, in 2 months, I don't really know what I'm doing, The next, after 2 months is up, it's all just going to be waiting for someone else to fill my schedule, We got one client on retainer, so that helps. But other than that, it's pretty much just hanging in the wind here. So can you make good money? Yes, you can. And I would say you can make a lot more money as a freelancer than you can working for a company. Uh, like we're making like 5 times as much, a little over 5 times as much as I was at the company I left before being freelancer. But again, you're throwing, because you're now independent, you're throwing away all the safety nets. You're throwing away the 401k match, and like nobody has a pension anymore. I didn't have a pension, but you're now responsible for your own retirement. You're responsible for your own health insurance. If you get sick, that's one thing I worry about a lot. Like if I, never mind getting in an accident, but let's just say I get the flu or something like really bad. Well, now I'm out of commission for a week, and I hate those eyes. And I'm on the hook. You know, I can't. I don't get sick days. I don't get paid vacation. So everything is on you, and it's a little stressful, but I love it. So I would never go back. Hey, Luke. Of course, I miss yearbooks. Of course, I have. It's funny. I had a nightmare about Jostens last night. Um, I always have this same nightmare where basically it's like I go back to Jostens, or not go back, but I just walk in and it's as if I never left. Like nobody knew that I left. So all of the jobs that I was supposed to do over the last 6 years are just waiting in a pile on my desk. And and the anyway, and lots of changes. This is a great question. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but you're asking how is the new version of Photoshop? So, if anybody has Photoshop Creative Cloud, I would definitely recommend going and upgrading to the one that just came out, like I think this week or last week. It's amazing. It has everything that I've been wanting Photoshop to do for years. The biggest thing it has is the ability to draw symmetrically, which is huge. Manga Studio has that. It also has brush smoothing, which actually really helps in Photoshop because they have a great brush engine, but for line art, I think it's terrible. That's why I do all my line art here in Manga Studio. So, how does it compare to Manga Studio? Does it replace it? Still not even close. For one, the way it does the symmetry drawing is really odd. Like, the symmetry only applies when you're using a brush. But like here in Manga Studio, if I use the lasso, it uses it on both sides, right? Any tool that I use will do it symmetrically. But in Photoshop, it doesn't do that. And that's actually really, you realize right away that that's a problem. Especially if you're trying to like delete things or move things around on both sides. As far as the brush smoothing, it definitely does a nice job. But what I like about Manga Studio is that I actually don't have stabilization turned up very high because I feel like if it's too high, it starts to take away the character of the drawing. So I feel like this brush stabilization really only works when you're trying to do like technical stuff, kind of actually just like these sunglasses. So I'll say it is definitely nice to have, and if you have Photoshop, it's worth updating. But it's still no Manga Studio, Clip Studio Paint, whatever. Yeah, Chris, it's funny. I had an iPad for like a week. I bought the new one, I think it was a 10.5, and I returned it because actually made a review about it. I really didn't like it. Um, it just didn't fit the way that I draw. I tried Adobe Sketch. I tried them all. I tried Procreate. I tried, what's the other one? Sketchbook Pro. I had a lot of issues with the stylus itself, and I even bought like a special texturized thing cover to try to make it feel more like paper, because otherwise it just feels like drawing on glass to me. But I couldn't get into it, and it's unfortunate because I've seen so many incredible things done with the iPad Pro. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is buying the Mobile Studio Pro by Wacom, because I'm a Wacom. I think I'm just a Wacom guy. I think that's just it. Oh crap! Look what I've done. Look what I did. Look what you made me do. I had the symmetry turned on, so I drew glasses on this nut. All right. What's cool is I got the vector. Let's try the vector eraser here. Yeah, it should work pretty good. I do that way too often. Nice. There we go, like it never happened. Whoa. Yeah, Joe, that is pretty funny actually. The sunglasses on the left and right, that kind of actually almost worked. Stuff in my life usually doesn't work out like that. All right, there we go. Okay, so we got to draw the flowers on a shirt. I think I may have actually made a brush for that at one point. Let me look at that. And I'm probably going to take off pretty soon. Just doing a shorter broadcast today. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. I'd love to answer them before I go. If I didn't get to any of your questions, let me know. And you guys can also follow me on Twitch if you're into that. I'm still trying to get a following there or figure that out. I don't spend any time on it really. And last time I broadcast to Facebook at the same time, and it actually worked really well. There was a lot of people on there that watched, but it's a pain in the neck getting it set up. They make it hard because they want you to only use Facebook and not these other things. Yeah, Chris, about the Mobile Studio Pro by Wacom, it is so expensive, and that's what sucks. It's like $2,000. But all the reviews I've heard about it, and I know two artists personally who use it all the time, and they love it. In fact, they've kind of started using that instead of their bigger Cintiqs. Because I guess the new pen, the Pro Pen 2, supposedly is a lot more accurate and works really well. I don't know. But I'll definitely let you know when I get it, if I do. So, hey, Datrush, thanks for watching. You're asking, would you recommend the 27-inch Wacom over the less expensive brands? So I get asked this question a lot. I use an old Wacom 24 HD. It's probably about 6 years old, I'd say, or maybe older than that actually, maybe 7 years. And it still works great. It's starting to show its age a little bit. but I have heard great things about the 27-inch. What I hear consistently though is to not get the touch version because it first of all it adds an extra like $400, and most people say it's so buggy that it's not worth it. So don't get the touch. Um, I'm actually waiting because there's going to be a new Wacom, supposedly released in January or February, that uses the Pro Pen 2, and it's got some other features too that look really cool. So I'm just going to wait for that one before I upgrade. As far as the other brands, I have never tried any of them myself. All right, and I did a lot of research on it, and it just seemed like most of them were not good. Most of them you had to make pretty significant sacrifices for them to really work. There is probably one exception, and I don't remember what it's called, but if you follow the artist Beast Pop, I know for a fact, I think, I think I know for a fact, I don't know if you can say that, but he uses a generic one. Crap, I don't know what it's not the Lenovo, maybe it's Hurion, I'm not sure. I don't know. But anyway, his line art is incredible. I mean, it's just like top of the line. So if he can do it on a generic tablet, then certainly that seems to be a pretty good endorsement of it. So if you're interested in a generic one, I would check him out and see what he actually uses. Because if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for you. Hey Matt, how you doing? Yeah, and it's going to be a 32-inch. The new one, they're offering it in a 32-inch and a 24-inch, or maybe it's 27-inch. I'm definitely not getting the 32-inch. I don't think that's. First of all, that's going to be very expensive, and second of all, I just don't want to fry my eyeballs. That just seems like you'd be sitting right next to a TV screen all day. I don't know. That doesn't work. All right, so I'm going to turn off, I should have done this a while ago, I'm going to turn off the blue lines and take a look. I think I need more darks on this guy's nose. Let's see, any more questions did I miss here? Hey Matt, when you're saying, you said one of the problems with using the Tablet Pro is that you still need a keyboard. Are you talking about the Wacom Mobile Studio or something else? I'm just reading back through some of the comments. Joe Seifert, I don't know if you're still here. He asked if if he can commission me to draw his family back together, and I will do that pro bono. And there's a good question here from Greg H. asking what brush or brushes do I use to ink, and what do you do to get your colors to transfer vividly as t-shirt prints? So the brushes that I use, you can actually buy them on my website at flylanddesigns.com. I've got like 200 brushes there that I made that you can buy, and I would appreciate it. Pays for my lunch. As far as how to get colors onto t-shirts vividly, so that's a pretty complicated question, because it really depends on what method of printing you're using. This is going to be a direct-to-garment shirt, so we can use totally full colors, any color we want, any gradient we want, and that to me is a lot of fun. So I'm happy about that. If that's the case, then I will. Direct-to-garment printers usually like things in RGB color space, so I use the North American General Purpose 2 color profile, and I think that uses the sRGB color space, and from my experience, what I'm seeing on my Wacom screen when they send me a T-shirt in the mail, um, it's almost always pretty much exact. Like there really aren't many surprises anymore, which is fantastic because I remember that color matching used to be a lot trickier, and I don't know if I don't know if it's like the technology has gotten better, um, or what, but it's been great. The other method is silk screening, and that's a monster. When silk screening, you actually have to pick out the Pantone colors. So I have a little Pantone swatch book, and I just designed the shirt however I think it looks good, and then at the end, I have to go through and hold up these little swatches to my screen and try to pick the one that most closely matches the color. And it's a painstaking process, and I hate it. And normally the results are fine, but there's definitely, if you're not careful, some times where you can get surprised. Um, there we go. All right, so I'm not going to do this today, or at least not on the live stream, but I still got to paint in the ocean and some beach here. And if you missed the beginning of the live stream, this is for a tourism T-shirt in Panama City. So I gotta draw like the Panama Canal in there. That's no easy task. So real quick, just a couple quick questions. Matt from Boldine Design is asking what kind of reference do I use? I've talked about this before. I use a lot of reference. I don't shy away from it because I find that when I don't use reference, I end up just kind of drawing the things that are just happen to be in my brain at the time, or sort of using old crutches. In this case, since I was using reference, we found that these two buildings here are iconic to Panama City, so we definitely wanted to include them, and I have like really detailed photos of them here in front of me. As far as the sloth and the toucan, this is the first time I've ever drawn a sloth, so I've got a ton of pictures here. The whole time I was inking, I wasn't looking at any of the reference photos. That is mainly for the pencil stage for me. So I got all that done in the pencil stage, and during the inks, I like to just sort of focus on what's the style going to be like, and putting down the weight of the illustration. I like this question. Where can I buy T-shirts with your art? One of the best places in terms of quality, I think, is TeePublic. Let me see if I can just grab a link here. Just a second. So I don't actually make any of my own T-shirts. I would like to, but I've just found that unfortunately the cost of making them is just too prohibitive. So the places that I sell them are here, and teepublic.com, and you can check that out. And I would appreciate it. Let me know if you do get a shirt. Let me know how it printed out, because I'm always interested in their quality. And one last question. Do you do most of your pencils digitally? Yeah, I draw most of the pencils for freelance artwork digitally. In this case, I happen to do it. Here, I'll show you the pencils for this. Just a second. I happen to do this one on paper and then scan them in. So the only reason I did that was just I was actually so busy working on this bigger project that every second of my life was devoted to freelance work. So I was like in the car, I think, and I had to draw these guys. So here they are. But I usually do everything digitally for freelance because basically if they have any revisions or if they need the artwork separated to use for something else, it's just too big of a pain to go back to my pencil drawing, to my desk, and scan things in and cut things and move things around. That's unfortunate, actually, because I actually prefer to pencil on paper. So I do that for my own personal artwork. Anytime I'm doing my own picture. All right, great. Well, that'll do it then. So I want to thank everybody who was watching. We'll definitely be here next week. I'm going to try to get Facebook working better, and I'll have my microphone and camera hooked back up so we can get a little more quality there. And thanks a lot. I appreciate everyone who's asking questions. If you have anything I missed, go ahead and just put it in the YouTube comments, and I will try to get back. All right, thanks. Click.